Welcome into the Set It Off Network. I am your host, Michael Seditol, with my main man, Will Volk, and it is conference championship weekend. And what better place to be than the heartland? All right, the heartland of America, and that is Big 12 country, Will. All right, we're going to Jerry's World for the Big 12 championship. It is Texas Tech and BYU, a rematch of a drubbing in the regular season. Texas Tech won that game 29-7, and to be honest with you, it wasn't even that close because Texas Tech still missed out on a lot of opportunities that game. But we're not here. We're not here to hate on BYU. BYU is 11-1, Will, and certainly controls their destiny. Unlike a lot of Power Four teams right now, controls their destiny of making the playoffs. So respect to BYU. I got a lot of respect for Bear Bachmeier, all right, because he wears the number 47 as a quarterback, which is the ultimate flex. Like, who doesn't love a good number 47 at quarterback? We love Mormons around here. Like, we love everything about BYU. The country, the America might not. All right, college football playoff rankings might not, because it's hard for me to think in my head that if you told me before the season, Will, that a Power Four team, no matter what conference it was in, all right, was 11-1, I'd say they're probably a lock to make the playoff, whether they win the conference championship game or not, right? But here we sit, BYU, number 11 in the college football playoff rankings, certainly does not is not a lock to make the playoffs. Like, they have to win this football game to make the postseason at this point, or they need some crazy stuff to happen. Maybe the committee just feels bad for them and gets a hair up their leg and just decides to put them in. But BYU certainly controls their own destiny. And on the other side of this, Texas Tech looks like one of the best teams in the country right now, sitting at number 5 in the college football playoff rankings. They've been dominant all year. They obviously coasted in this game. They're a 13.5-point favorite right now. This game kicks off at noon Eastern time on ABC in Jerry World. So you're going to have the Texas flavor of this thing. I believe this has got to be Texas Tech's first appearance in the Big 12 championship game. I can't
According
remember.
to my research, it is.
I can't remember in my younger years thinking of Texas Tech as a Big 12 champion. They just started playing conference championships in that dang conference, a while ago. So, but Texas Tech looks to be on cruise control here in the Big 12. I don't know how BYU wins this football game, Will. I'm not going to lie, because Texas Tech is a really good football team. Like, when I watch them, I think of them in the same light as I think of the Ohio States, the Indianas, the Georgias, the Alabamas, all these elite teams that we talk about. Texas Tech is in that category. They are for real. They might have the best roster that money can buy in the portal, but man, they put it to good use. When you spend that kind of money, this is the kind of return that you really want in your investment. And right now, Texas Tech fans can't be much happier than they are right now.
Yep. Well, as I start my opening comments about this matchup, I just got to say this. It's wild because, I'm not really a Big 12 expert, right? Because I live in the South and I love me some SEC. I love some SEC teams. But maybe I'm a Big 12 expert because this feels like the most chaotic conference in America. But you know what matchup I predicted preseason? We might need to find this clip, but I predicted it'd be BYU versus Texas Tech. And I think I said, why not, or something like that. And guess what? This is the matchup we have. So how about this? But to go kind of off of what you're saying about Texas Tech, yeah, they've certainly been a really dominant team just about every time you watch them. And you look at their results this season, just blowout after blowout. The one exception being when they went on the road, lost to Arizona State. But that was a game they were certainly in and had a chance to win. Going down to the final minutes, I remember Arizona State had some heroics there near the end to close that one out and pull off the upset. But Texas Tech certainly looking like a good team. I think they're in the playoffs, certainly, no matter how this game goes. I think they're safe enough. And we mentioned blowouts. One of those blowouts was against BYU, a big time stage and showcase. They just dominated them at home there. Really wasn't a fight at all. So, it could have been a lot worse. 29-7 was the score, but it could have been a lot worse, it felt like. So, I don't have much belief in BYU myself either, but we can be some of the rat poison for the BYU hype video, I guess, this
Clip
week.
it. Clip it. We're clipping it, and I'm sending it to him. I'm going to let him know what you said about him, and then I'm going to show him that you said that you hadn't watched him all year. All right, because
Mm.
last video we talked about BYU. He went on record and said he hadn't watched BYU play one time all season long before we did a preview on BYU. That is the man
Oops.
right there on your right or left or whatever he is on my screen right now. All right,
Well, I've
but
watched them since. I watched them get destroyed by Texas Tech, and then I did watch them play Cincinnati. Watched the last few minutes of that game. So good on them for winning that game.
I told
But
him he had to start educating himself. I said BYU is going to be something we talk about in the future. You need to brush up on your BYU. All right. And he's been doing it. He's been studying the Book of Mormon. He's been doing all that stuff. He's been practicing soaking, all kinds of stuff. So he is taking it to the next level. But let's talk about
no.
BYU's offense and how they have struggled, all right, when they fall behind in football games. Now, I will say this: I had this all queued up, and then they go and play UCF, and they get down 14-0, and come back and blow them out. All right, so it kind of derailed my point there. But the thing with BYU this whole season has they've been playing from ahead. They haven't trailed very much. The only game they really trailed in was the Texas Tech game and they can never get back into it because they really rely on running the football. They are a very good rushing team, but Bear Bachweier struggles in predictable passing downs, just like anybody would, and he is going to have a tough test because on the Texas Tech defense, they are loaded. This is one of the best defenses in the country. You have Jacob Rodriguez, 101 tackles at linebacker. He could be a sneak dark horse Heisman finalist. Obviously, he's not going to win it because defensive players don't win the Heisman, but he could definitely be an invite to New York. And then you have David Bailey, the Stanford transfer, who is leading the team with 12 and a half sacks right now. He is a force to reckon with on that line. So is BYU going to have more answers than they did the last time these two teams matched up? Because last time it was a struggle for BYU offensively. Defensively, it was just a bad sight. They had 3 turnovers in that game, only 255 yards of offense. All of that really felt like it came in that late fourth quarter where they were able to put together a good drive for a touchdown. They had a 75-yard touchdown there at the end of the regulation there to kind of make it look like it was, competitive, I guess. But realistically, it wasn't good. They were terrible on third downs. They had ton of penalties. It was just not a good football game. And if you're a BYU fan, you're hoping that was the worst, right? You're saying, oh, well, we played terrible that day, but if we get a matchup with them again, we'll show them why, we're ranked so high and we deserve to be in this thing. So I honestly feel like BYU is going to be more competitive in this game because it's like, how can you be less competitive? Because I'm not even kidding you, Will. I don't know how much you watched of that football game. Texas Tech missed out on a lot of opportunities. Like
Mm-hmm.
they had the opportunities to make that like a 40-something-7 game, and they kind of struggled there in their own right. So the fact that they still won that game by 22 points is saying something. So hopefully BYU can keep this thing close. But we kind of talked about it in other videos. If BYU wins this game, Will, do they control their own destiny? Do they jump in Alabama? Do they jump
Certainly, they
a
get the
Notre
auto
Dame
bid.
team? They obviously get that auto bid, but as far as seeding wise, because they don't jump into that top 4, could we possibly see an 11-1, 12-1 BYU team jump and host a postseason football game? Because right now they're at 11. They would jump. They would have to jump all the way to that 8-7 range. Do you see them possibly getting that far? Because Texas Tech probably wouldn't drop that much, being that they would be 1-1 in the series. So they probably wouldn't get dinged a little bit for that. But if BYU can win this football game, it gets pretty dicey. We talked about what if Alabama loses the SEC championship game and BYU wins? Does that knock Alabama out of the postseason?
If Alabama loses and BYU wins, I think it would. We'll have to see if the committee would rank Alabama ahead of Notre Dame, Oklahoma. I don't see why they would. But just because of the auto bid, BYU would be in. It's an interesting spot they sit in right now. I do think, they've only got jumped 3 more positions to get to host a playoff game, and I think they could do that if they find a way to win this game. I think they would be able to host a playoff game. I don't think any of those teams that don't play this week have a chance to move up, because how can you move up when you don't play? It doesn't make sense. But BYU, they've got a chance. If they win this game, that means they would beat every team on their schedule. And, winning a conference, I think that's got to be worth something in the eyes of the committee as well. So I think they could pass Alabama, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and get themselves into a position to host a
You're not
playoff game.
thinking.
What?
You're thinking too logically. We're not thinking through the college football playoff bias. Well,
Oh, yeah,
the
that's true.
SEC
The way
bias, the
we're
Notre
setting up
Dame
right
bias.
now, yeah, the way we're setting up right now, we could have 3 Big 10 playoff games three SEC playoff games at home. You don't want to give that up, so BYU would probably slot in at like 9 if they win
They'll
this thing.
they'll they'll phone down to the Big 12 officiating crew like, hey, go ahead and it's getting too close. Get rid of this BYU team. So you heard it here first. If some funky calls start happening, all right, we seen the team last year in South Carolina get screwed out of a playoff spot, all right, because of
So
the refs.
sad.
All right, and look at
That
what happened
LSU
to
game.
them. They still haven't recovered. All right, and
Yeah,
and literally ruined almost the whole program. I mean, but
they'll be
it is.
back.
Yeah, they'll be back at 5-6 next year, or 5-7 next year, and we'll be right here talking about them. But anyways, what's your prediction on this game? Well, I know we kind of talked about BYU winning, but realistically, do you think BYU wins this football game?
Let's see here. The spread is Texas Tech favored by 13.5. And I think that's not enough. Texas Tech's going to win by a lot more than that. This is going to be a blowout. It's going to be over by about 12:45 p.m. And it's going to be like, oh man, there's really nothing else on. We got to wait until 4 o'clock for the SEC championship. I think,
G5 game. No, we don't.
yeah.
G5 games at night. Never mind.
No, we got the MAC championship between Miami,
Yep.
Ohio, and Western Michigan. So I guess we can
Some
watch
say
it.
the most important game in the Midwest that day.
Wow, they
Some are
would be
calling it
wrong if
that.
they're not thinking about the game in Indiana. But yeah, I think the South Carolina State Championships they're on as well. I don't know
Yeah,
what matchups at
nobody
that
watching
time,
this
but
video cares about that. This is a
okay
video
then.
about BYU and Texas Tech.
Well, as far as that game goes, I think it's going to get ugly. Texas Tech dominates. They're going to play their way up from number 5 into a first round bye, which if it was me, I'd rather have a home playoff game in that number 5 seed. But, I think winning this game and dominating it would lead to them jumping up into that top 4. So that's my pick.
Well, they should jump into the top four with Texas A&M losing anyway. But
Oh, yeah, that's true.
yeah, yeah, they're kind of yeah. Unfortunately for Texas Tech, you really wanted A&M to keep winning. I mean, who doesn't want the number 5 seed? Like there is probably every playoff team in the pool would be like, sign me up for the 5 seed. Give me Duke, give me a G5 team, give me any of them. Sorry teams that are going to get in this thing, but yeah, I'm with you, man. I don't think BYU got this one, man. I think BYU is a fraudulent team, and I talk a lot about my BYU brethren, but I really don't respect BYU at all. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I don't like BYU. I don't think they've played anybody that was worth anything this year. I think somehow they've managed to get through this thing 11-1, and kudos to that. But when they played the only elite team on their schedule, they got blown out. So I'm taking Texas Tech. I'm taking Texas Tech to dominate this football game, and they're going to win. They're probably going to win by more than 22, which is what they won by last time. And it is. It's going to be a terrible noon window for them. So that's all I got. Texas Tech blowout. Williams got Texas Tech blowout. Means BYU's probably going to win.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest
BYU
here.
hype video. They got lots of material to cut from here.
Lots of material. That whole last minute that I just talked about, put it in there. Because, man, you talk about hyping up a fan base. That would do it right there. Don't mention Will soaking thing. He does. I
What?
don't think he actually does that. But that's all we got for
No,
today.
my research has
Appreciate you
only been
guys.
football related.
Appreciate you guys for watching Big 12 Championship preview. All right. We hope to see you back. Make sure you check out all of our other championship previews if you like this one. We did all of them. I'm pretty sure we did all of them. So check those out. And then when you're done checking those out, subscribe to the channel. Because if you went through all that trouble to go watch all the game previews and all the championship game previews this week, you need to be subscribed. It just helps us. All right. It's free. It costs you absolutely nothing. And then when you get done, like the video, comment on the video, do what y'all do. Spread the good word. All right. So thank you guys for watching. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time.